So what we're going to look at today is reading strategies. Reading is very passive, and so everything that you're doing around reading strategies is to make it more active and also to put it through your brain in as many ways as possible. So the first strategy that I want to show you is a real oldie but goodie. This has been around for years and years and years. It's called the SQ3R. And there's other ones that sort of mimic this, but this is the easiest one for me to remember. So SQ3R. And what does that mean? Well, the S stands for survey, the Q stands for question, and then it's read, recite, and review. Okay? So let's look at the SQ first. This is primarily a strategy to use when you have a textbook that has headings and subheadings, or even journal articles. A lot of times research articles can have headings and subheadings. So basically, before you even sit down and read the material, you take out your textbook and you go through and you really write out, you survey the headings and subheadings. So you'll have a big A and you'll write out the heading, and maybe the smaller headings, 1, 2, 3, and there might even be smaller headings, A, B, C maybe, and then you'll have another big heading. So you have to kind of look at what the headings are like, whether they're bolded, whether they're larger, whether they're italicized. Sometimes these littler ones are italicized. And so that's how you kind of identify which ones are the major headings, which ones are the minor headings, which ones are the minor headings. But you're writing these out very quickly. It doesn't take that much time to just go through and write them out. Another thing that you might want to do is have flashcards. And as you're scanning through, you're not even reading the material, but if you're scanning through and you see bolded vocabulary or italicized vocabulary, you might want to put those on a flashcard and just write the word on there. You're not filling in the back part about what the word means or anything, but you're just getting your brain prepared for the information that you're going to put in when you do the reading and the reciting and the reviewing. Okay? So first you do a survey, and that may take 5 to 10 minutes. I can get through a chapter now in any book. I can get through it in maybe 5 to 7 minutes because I'm not going very, very, very slow. I'm trying to really just write out the headings and subheadings. The next step then is to pull out another piece of paper, put it next to your survey, and then create questions around each of these headings. So you haven't even read the material yet, but what you can do is once you get good at it, is you can start to go A and write out a question, 1, 2, 3, you write out a question. What are some question words? Question words can be anything from describe to why, where, what, who, depending on the material, explain, compare, all those words that are going to be actually used in your tests probably. Mm-hmm. And so you write out the question, A, B, C, okay? And remember, you're doing your flashcards here. Just doing the SQ, think about it. The main focus of study skills is to pass the information through your brain in as many ways as possible so that you get the most information in your brain many different ways. It's kind of like going over a path. Let's say I just moved to a new job, here I live, and here's my work, and here's this field that nobody has walked through. It takes me a good 45 minutes to walk around the field. So I want to walk through the field, which only takes me, hopefully it will only take me 15 minutes. So when I first try to get through the field, oh my God, it takes me a good half an hour to get through the field. And then I come back, same way, same path, same thing, back and forth. And so what's going on is I'm actually walking that pathway and it's starting to become a path. That's the same way with the brain. The more times that you put the information in your brain, the easier it is going to be to access it. And if you put it in by reading, by writing it out, by talking it out, by reviewing it, that path is really going to get strong, and it's going to be connected to a lot of different areas of your memory system in your brain. So that's very important. And so when you're doing it here, just think about it. First, you open your textbook and you looked at the material. Then you wrote out the headings. Not only did you write out the headings, but you wrote them out in a very visual way. So it's really organizing what is the most important information, what's connected to that information, and then what's connected to this information. And so you've organized it in a very hierarchical and visual way. Then you looked at it again, you created a question around it, and then you wrote the question out. So just by doing the SQ, you've put this information, the main information, in a very hierarchical structure in your brain 6 times. That's very important. Because basically what you're doing is you're getting your brain ready to dump information into these things. So think of this as a folder. Think of this as a subfolder and even a subfolder, so that you're getting your brain ready so that when you either read it or you go to the lecture, your brain is ready to put information in there. Okay? So that's the first thing. The next thing is to read it. So you go out and you read it. I had a lot of difficulty reading my textbooks in college, and so even if I would have just done the SQ and then went to a lecture, because I'm a very auditory learner, that would have been so much better for me. Unfortunately, I didn't know the SQ3R at the time. But even to do the SQ and then go to the lecture, my brain would have been so much more prepared for the information that the professor was giving to me. And when I was writing it down from the professor, I was hearing it and it was going up my arm in a different way and going into my brain. It would have really filled in a lot of the holes. So let's say you do read it before lecture, right? Then you go to lecture and you listen to the lecture and you take notes and everything. What's really great about the SQ3R is you can come back then and go to these questions and actually ask yourself these questions. And if you can answer these questions, you're really hitting 100%. But if you can't, that's sort of the feedback loop that then you know, okay, I need to read this section again because I didn't understand it when I first read it. I didn't understand it when the professor said it. So I got to read this section again and try to really understand it. Maybe I have to meet with my tutor to really talk about the questions that I'm posing to myself that I'm not understanding. But that's what's really great about this cue, is that it's a really great feedback loop to yourself, whether you're actually understanding the material. The other thing that's great about this SQ is that this one that says recite, I really believe that talking it out can really be helpful to students. And so if you have a study partner or a study group, you can take these questions, and if your study partner or your study group has done the SQ as well, you can ask each other these questions, and people have to recite it. People have to talk it out. They have to almost teach you again, or teach the group again, to explain what the question means. And that way, now you're running it through your brain in a different way, because now you're in some ways prepping to be able to respond to your study partner, or respond to your study group, and actually explain it, which is very powerful to a lot of people. And then you want to review it over and over. What I recommend is that within 48 hours of the last time you reviewed, review again. Our memory system is really weak. And unless you put it in many different ways, many different times, you're going to lose a lot of this information. So I'd say every 48 hours, review this material. Some people go 10 minutes early to class, and they go sit down in class, or they sit outside of class, and they basically go through their notes. They just read their notes. A lot of times they'll read them out loud. And so they're again, they're reciting it. They're putting it in their brain in a different way. So this is really an active response to sometimes what I've found to be really boring readings, whether it's textbooks or even journal articles with headings and subheadings. It's very active because you're writing these out, you're reading and taking notes, and then you're going back and checking out whether the feedback loop is really working, whether you've really understood them, the questions or not, and whether you can answer them, and then you're reciting them. You're going to some study group, your tutor, or even the professor or a study partner, and you're talking it out, making it active, because reading is so passive that it may not be the best way that you can learn that material. So survey, question, and then read, recite, and then continually review the information to get that information through your brain in as many ways as possible. And remember your flashcards. That's another way of getting